You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 115. My name is Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram and 5cardguys.com. And with me co-hosting as usual is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards and John, who is Trade You at Recess. All right, off the top, SGC has done it again. First, it was a promo special of grading any 2022 Bowman Chrome card for $9 when the set was first released, if you guys remember. Now, with the release of 2023 Top Series 1, SGC is offering the same deal to grade any card from that set for $9. So I want to get your quick thoughts on that, but also ask you guys, do you think any other grading company will offer something similar in the future? Because I think this is kind of a brilliant play by SGC to keep doing this.
I personally love it. I think it's a great opportunity for, you get raw cards that, you pull from packs, and you're not spending so much money, like $30+ back into that card, right? So it's like with a strong rookie class, it encourages, hey, you never know, Gunnar Henderson could be something, throw him and, send your 4 base that, for less than $40, and then one of them end up PSA 10ing, or sorry, I see how natural that was. I said PSA 10. Just we're talking about SGC here. It's just like, what? But
that's the power of brand. The power of brand.
I'm sorry, SGC. This is your spotlight. But yeah, I like it because. I'm going to submit. I took advantage of the Bowman Chrome one, and I had a few come back SGC 10, and it was totally worth it from a financial standpoint. I like it too from like a release standpoint where it encourages people to rip and submit, and you get the cards within a week. So to me, I love that whole process. It's very cheap, very affordable, and I don't think other companies would do it, because now you're just chasing. It's like, okay, which one would you rather do, SGC or whatever secondary company it is, right? Unless it's somebody like PSA or Beckett, I don't think SGC is gonna have an issue with that. I would like to say that they should kind of like tag along and kind of join the club, right? But overall, I think it's a great initiative. It's something that SGC, I think, is using to their advantage right now, and I'm all for it because the experience that I've always had grading with SGC has been phenomenal. Yeah. Mixing that price point and the quick turnaround, you can't go wrong. 100%.
Nice.
This is amazing. I mean, it's good all around. It's good for all the hobby, the collectors. As these types of things that SGC continues to do becomes more and more popular, if they continue to do these on multiple releases, it's only a matter of time where it starts putting pressure on the other companies, most notably somebody like PSA. And maybe PSA, maybe they won't drop their prices, but maybe they will, take it a little bit easier on upcharging, right? Something where they have to be a little bit more competitive with pricing. So this is good news all around. It's going to help all consumers, like anybody that wants to submit cards. And the other thing is that, sometimes especially if you're ripping at a $9 price point, it is almost a why not. And, I think about like your Ozzie Smith autograph you got, right? I mean, some people, even if it's like a $30 card, right? You may not think it's worth it to send it in, but if you wanted to sell that $30 card, you got to think of the liquidity at this point. Right?
Yeah.
So if it's worth $30 and the last sale was $30, there might have been only one buyer at $30, right? But it made a comp, and in your mind, you're like, this card is worth $30. You put it on eBay or you try to sell it at a card show. Hey, look, it's the next comp, but there's no buyers at $30. But you spend $9, slab it up. Would people buy it at $30 slabbed? Probably. You're probably going to get 50 buyers to scoop it up at 30. So a little bit of a hit on, I guess if you want to look at it an investment way, a bit of a hit on your margins, but you're increasing your liquidity by 100-fold, right? So this is great, like a $9 price point, and it's seemingly bringing excitement back to raw cards. I don't know if you guys noticed, but most of the last card show in Toronto, and if you look at most of the card show on the YouTube space and some of the bigger shows that happen Burbank, it's sounding like people rummaging through raw cards or dollar bins is the play. Like everybody seems to be doing that right now. So I think it's a big thing. So good on SGC to offer it again. And for those that are ripping, I mean, it is something to think about to take advantage.
Yeah, no, that's kind of cool to hear. I didn't know that people are rummaging through raw cards. And
it seems like it's getting pretty popular again.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. What that does, hopefully, is for the other notable grading companies like PSA and BGS and even CSG, they might not be as interested in grading base raw cards. Maybe that's just the market that they're going to give to SGC with these deals. But at the same time, it might add up, right? Like if they completely lose that base card market, I know PSA through their collectors club, I might be mistaken, but they're trying to offer like a $15 to $20 grading fee for essentially that base card market. But who's going to do that when you can do it for $9 through SGC, right? And if that adds up, then how much of that business that they have with the higher end cards, will that kind of cover their whole business operations? Who knows, right? So it might put put some pressure on their cash flow situation. So it's good for SGC. I'm in agreement with you guys, and hopefully they do this not just as a kind of a special promo set. Maybe they're taking a loss during these, and it's more of a getting their brand out there. But if they could break even, I would probably, if I was SGC, I would keep doing this for all the major release throughout the year, and that brand power. One day Hyung's going to say, if you SGC 10, that'll be something to look forward to instead of
I apologize,
saying
SGC.
PSA 10 for every perfect card that we think is out there. Right. So good on SGC. Definitely, if we do rip Top Series 1, especially if we're going to do it at Hyung Studio, I'll just leave my top cards with Hyung, and then we'll just submit it
right away.
SGC.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let's move on now to hobby headlines. So I've been seeing quite a bit of discussion based on what Fanatics CEO Michael Rubin said about the hobby in a recent interview on the Fullsend Podcast. So I thought we could discuss what he said exactly and how we feel about it. So what I did was I took some excerpts from the interview, which I'll read to you guys, and then we can respond with some of our initial thoughts. All right. So here's the first quote. It's kind of lengthy, but bear with me. He says, "I think the collectible space has enormous upside for the most obvious reasons. So we got into this 2 years ago. We now have the collectible rights to not only Topps that we own today, which has baseball and F1 and Bundesliga and UEFA. We have all the rights coming on from the NFL, the NBA, NCAA, WWE, UFC. So we have a lot of these trading cards. And here's the craziest thing. This business has never been marketed. There's never been any more product innovation," end quote. So initial thoughts on that first lengthy quote.
I think we mentioned this on a previous podcast about how marketing sucked, and if they had the right person in place, and we seen it with that Julio. If you guys seen that Julio ad or that Top Series 1, I thought it was genius. Like for me, that's what marketing's all about. To see Topps kind of doing that, and even coming from kind of like the Fanatics leader, like this is what's needed. It's like we need industry leaders that are actually going to take an approach where they're doing something about the hobby, right? And that's why a lot of people are going to say, here we go again. You have to say that Rubin's a CEO or whatever. He has to play the game. It's like, no, man, no, they wouldn't be investing this much money. And trust me, it's like when I see it from like all these quotes that are that you're reading, that's exactly how someone in charge should speak. It's like, what's the game plan? How are you going to do it? And he's hitting the points where it's true. It's like, think of what happens when you market market like the brand properly, the Fanatics brand. You have all access to the licensed stuff, and you license it to not necessarily the hobbyist, right? You're licensing it to a whole different audience that, you know, are interested in potentially coming into kind of like the marketplace, right? So I love the fact that, you know, they're pushing in on this and they're speaking about it more, because as, you know, a collector / investor myself, I would like that support from kind of like the big dogs, especially, you know, what they said, what Rubin said was exactly what I want to hear, to be honest, like coming from that perspective, right? It's like you need a leader who's willing to kind of like say, you know what, I'm bullish on this market and this is how we're going to do it. And that's exactly what he said he's going to do. And I believe that he's going to do it, because that's, from a business perspective, it makes sense. Why wouldn't you? You have access to all these huge, massive brands. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's like it needs direction. So, bullish.
Nice.
Yes, we did mention I was a big critic on the marketing efforts of these companies. I mean, we've never seen it other than small little, you know, customers facing stuff that you see at little retail shops or hobby shops. Yeah. I mean, you never see Topps Panini sports cards in any major commercials or anything, any kind of presence, right? Other than, I don't know, maybe recently. So good on him to talk about that and point that out. And then, you know, very strategic of him to go on to a male-centric pop culture podcast and not like a hobby podcast, not coming on here with us, stuff like that. I think it's the right move, because he's like Hyung said, he's trying to market to the wider audience outside of us hobbyists who are enjoying this. He's trying to legitimately market and grow. So it is exciting. I mean, come on, he's preaching to the choir though, right? Like the three of us are a little biased in our opinion, because we're hobbyists, we're in this, we're obsessed about it. So anything that's good news about the hobby, we're going to love, we're going to eat it up. So we'll see what happens in the outside world and all of this, but I'm taking his word for word right now. From a PR perspective, he's the new big dog in town. He's, you know, trying to impress his bosses and shareholders and stuff. So he's got to say this stuff anyway. So it's a bit of grain of salt. Like he has to position and posture properly. So, but I hope what he's saying, I hope he means it, because that's what we want to see in the hobby. So regardless, it's exciting.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Like, you know, the J-Rod Topps commercial, essentially the ad, you know, it was funny and it was weird because we've never seen anything like it from Topps. Right. You know what I mean? Like it's like seeing something for the first time, and you're like, what is this? An actual ad? Or
that looked like a Saturday Night Live episode. It was awesome.
And you know, getting one of their biggest stars of the game to be part of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like with J-Rod. And you know, now it kind of makes sense, because I think part of the licensing deal is that the players get a cut of it, so they have the incentive to be part of the marketing machine with all these, you know, collectibles, you know, and their own cards, so to speak. So I like seeing that. And you know, the second point I want to make is like I never really like monopolies, because you know it could go sour if people have all these like licensing deals. If one company has all these licensing deals like Fanatics does, and you know the temptation is there to do absolutely nothing, just let it ride, and you know there's no competition, you don't have to innovate. But the fact that, you know, he's seems to be really serious about the space, and although he has all these licensing agreements with all these major leagues, and now he's working on, you know, actually getting, you know, the name out there and just using marketing dollars to grow this kind of industry. That's that makes me bullish as well. All right, the next quote, and it's all of these next two quotes are related to what he says about marketing, but I want to take different angles to it. Here's the second quote. I am telling you right now, to every collector out there, the 12-month cycle in right now, the 12-month cycle in right, the 12-month cycle in right now, we will do more for this industry that's been done in the last 70 years. And by the way, I'm not arrogant, I'm pretty humble. We will do more this year than what's been done in the last 70 years. We're going to aggressively market this industry. We're going to aggressively innovate this industry. We got so much great stuff coming, end quote. So again, he's really pushing this marketing aspect of it. And he says, we have so much great stuff coming. Are you excited or optimistic that he's speaking truth, or you think it's hyperbole?
Like I said, like for me, I'm a big believer in it because I'm in that field on a daily basis. Like I see people innovate marketplaces and the people in charge. And I'm telling you, we've said this before. The card market has a bunch of like guys that come in, try to innovate, they fail, and then it gets better. It gets better. So it's something that, like, for me, it's great to have someone that knows what they're talking about from that standpoint, from a business standpoint, and acknowledging the fact that, you know, this industry wasn't even marketed to, and it's kind of been as big as it is, right? That's why I always told you it's insane. I've been seeing it from my perspective, and I'm not even saying that I have a biased perspective, because I'm just looking at it from a marketplace perspective. Outside of the hobby, how does the health of the business look from an economic standpoint? So for me, he's absolutely right. He's not really being arrogant with his comment. He's telling the truth that they've been that bad at marketing. And now with the marketing plan, with the budgets they have, with the resources they have, with the amount of people in the marketplace in the hobby, how could you not, you know, take a multi hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of like business and transactions, even potentially billions. I don't even know. I didn't even do research on this, but like, how could you not, you know, be able to, you know, capitalize on that and restructure and reorganize it so that there's intention, right. You know, there's intent. And that's the key word. It's like, it's all calculated, man. If you think you could just be a CEO and run a company and you think that they don't do anything, it's like, no, that's not how this world works. It's like, these guys know what they're doing. They're going to be criticized the most, and they're put in those positions for a reason, is because they're able to assess it from a macroeconomics lens and be able to make the proper assessments to make the necessary changes to make that whatever they're trying to execute better. So like I said, I'm all for him. That's my type of leader. Like if somebody comes out and says it's kind of like the opposite, oh, the industry's good, and he's not really saying anything how he's exposing it or anything like that, then I'd be like, you know what, this guy's full of crap, right? But right. Like me, from like a business standpoint, I'm just saying, you know what, that's what I want to hear. That's exactly what I want to hear.
Okay, cool.
Right. They're going to do more in the next 12-month cycle than has been done in the last 7 years. That is a hot take. Dang.
70. Did you say 7? 70, he says.
70 years. Yes, that is a hot take. So, you know what? Like, people can...
Is it?
Yeah, is it? Yeah, for sure. Like, no, that's a hot take.
Let's hear him out. Let's hear it, John.
People can hate on that, and we can sit here and say that's not going to happen. But I think Hyung is right in that, number one, that is what he should be saying as a leader, regardless of if it technically comes true or not. And number two, hearing those types of words, for me, I'm going to sit here and say it's not actually going to happen. But I like hearing that because it shows me that he is going to try his darndest to try to prove everybody that is actually the case, right? So whether or not he achieves it, that doesn't even matter, because I'm sitting here excited that I know that this guy clearly has put his neck and his reputation on the line with these types of hot take statements. And that means he's going to try damn hard to make it come true. So that part, I think everybody should be certainly excited about. And, you know, everything that they're going to do this upcoming in the next 12 months, they said aggressively. So we're clearly going to see a lot of stuff, whether it's products, innovation in products, or I'm sure most of it is going to be marketing. So like seeing commercials, seeing players doing certain things, promo events, whatever it is, I think most of it is going to come out of marketing. But either way, it's all great stuff. Like, how could you not eat that up?
Yeah, no, I think it's more out of excitement. He's kind of coming off, maybe for some people, arrogant, but I think he's genuinely excited about stepping into this industry that he really honestly feels that hasn't been marketed for the last 7 decades, whether you believe him or not. But yeah, he just feels like there's a lot of potential in it, and he's excited to get started. So that's my take on, how he appears to be when he talks about these things. And, in terms of product innovation, like, I don't know, I didn't mention this on our Friday episode when we're talking about our first impressions of Top Series 1, but I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but one of the hits in Top Series 1 are these one-of-one cut autographs of Babe Ruth. There was the error card, but you could get a Babe Ruth cut auto.
Amazing.
Jackie Robinson, all these old school vintage, and essentially $100 product. Like, that's pretty good. You know what I mean? Right. Like, that's kind of innovative in a way, because you expect cheap sticker auto hits of no name guys, maybe, right? Yeah. But including this set,
I think that's genius.
Should be,
like, because they're making so much money, or they're making so much money on release. It's paper. At the end of the day, the value of the actual cost of the print and the paper is not what it sells for. So it's like there's margin. There's a lot of margin. It's like imagine scratching bingo tickets and there's no grand prize.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like there's no $25,000 chase, or there's no hit the grand prize of $100,000 could change your life. It's like, you know what? You're just gonna get your $50 hits, and that's about it. And there's nothing really
grand
out
prize
there.
of $50. That's what you get.
Exactly. No, I think it's genius. I think they need to do more of that.
100%.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I was thinking about that today pre-show, and I was gonna mention it at some point, but it's funny that the words came right out. I think that's exactly the way to do it, and it sucks because even the rips that we've done before, like the last big session of Top Scrum that we had a couple of years ago, we're paying $300 a hobby box, and one of our Will hits a on-card Mike Trout auto. Like, that is a monster hit, and what is that worth? $300. Like, a monster hit, 1 out of 50,000 packs, is worth the cost of the box. Like, that's not for any collector. That's so wrong. So I think this is certainly the way to do it, man. Like, you gotta provide chase. You gotta provide something amazing in every product. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and the
high end stuff is like the super high end stuff. None of this, like we said, my main complaint, sticker autos, player worn adventure, like, get all of that out of there. If I'm paying $8,000 a box, I don't want to see any of that stuff in there.
Right. Yeah, no, I thought that was a brilliant plan for the Top Series 1 box to have those amazing cut autos.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't think it's on. I don't know if Fanatics was involved with that, because they're still kind of in this transition phase, but I'm sure there'll be more like that in future products, because I think Michael Rubin's also looking into like the sports gambling side of things. That's one of his ventures as well. And I think in that interview in the Fullsend podcast, he didn't mention, and I might have heard mistakenly, but I think he's selling part of his ownership stake of the Sixers because there's complications of sports gambling and your involvement with the sports team. In any case, just the fact that he's really into the sports gambling side of things and knows that that's what kind of causes excitement in the industry. That's part of, the chase, like you guys said, is part of the fun in ripping, right? Like, you're talking about Top Scroll. Look, we were ripping Panini NFTs looking for that Leo Messi 101, right? So, anything for a good chase will get us involved.
And like you look at sports gambling, and not, I'm not here to argue whether, sports gambling is like good for us or bad for us. Like, to each their own. There's people that, are very successful, sports gamblers, and they do it for a living. So, but I think it's synonymous, because if you think about it, like, the sports gambling world is such a big market cap space, right? So it's like they bet on outcomes of games. It's like you can't really bet on players. And like we said from the get-go, this is years ago when we're justifying why are cards valuable. And it goes back to kind of like, well, you're kind of betting on their players' careers and their trajectory of that. They're going to be a Hall of Fame player or one of the GOATs of the greatest all time. It's like, think like John, when he was back introduced into kind of like the hobby, I forgot who you're chasing in the early 2000s, or it'd have been Sidney Crosby, right? That you're chasing, right? So it's like, man, had you have made that bet early in the 2000s and got like a Future Watch auto, that would have been a pretty good investment, or a pretty good gamble at the time, right? So we're essentially doing the same thing. We're just doing it in players where there's a lot more, I guess, longevity involved, where it's not a result base and it's black and white, right? So it's like there's a lot more, I guess, room for cushion when you gamble on the players' careers, because they're a lot longer, and during that time there's going to be spikes and dips, right, based on the performance. So it makes sense, and this is why I always said, people don't understand the NFT world. This is what I'm talking about. It makes sense from this standpoint once it gets to that level where, sports cards become totally different, and the way we interact with them and the way we collect them. When new people are on the market, there's different marketplaces. So yeah, like I'm all for it, because it's one and the same. To say that this hobby is going to be the exact same the way it was the last 5 years, you don't even want that, and people, a lot of people are like, oh, all these new guys come into the hobby, they change it, they ruin it. It's like, honestly, like I don't see them ruining it. I don't see new people coming in the hobby ruining it. It's just some old school people think that it should be the exact same. It's like there shouldn't be any crazy value. That hobby boxes should be like $50 so that they could enjoy ripping again. What kind of attitude is that? Like, I want it to be cheaper so I could rip more. I'm like, that's not gonna do the industry any good. Like seriously. Like that's the way I see it. It's like, come on, like clean it up.
I was just gonna say, who's gonna hate this segment? Old school collectors.
100%. And you know what?
For sure.
Change your attitude.
Oh man, but just to add to that, I'm still in favor of nice designed cards. I'm a collector too. Like, it's not, we discussed this many times before, so I won't go over it again. But no one's 100% collector, no one's 100% investor. We're both, right? So we like.
There's a price to everything.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, for sure. All right. Here's the last quote. Again, he talks about the marketing aspect of it, but he says, quote, "Like, I am so bullish on it because this business has done great by accident. And by the way, if you plan a business to be lucky, you're dead long term. I don't plan on luck. I plan on like good strategy, hard work, getting everyone behind it." End quote. So the one area of this quote I want to focus on this time is, he says, this business has done great by accident. And I know I right before we came on to record this podcast, I think Sports Card Investor put out something. I didn't see it yet, but he put exactly that. This business has done great by accident ? And I wonder if he's going to argue like, oh, is it really an accident? Like, was there people behind, people in the hobby that sustained it, or is he talking about something else? I don't know. But what do you think about his quote there, that he thinks the business is done great by accident? I
might be on the other side. People might end up hating me, but like, this stuff fires me up. Like, I'm listening to him like, yes, Rubin, man, this is the type of stuff we needed. Like, I agree. It's like, come on, like, if you really think about it from a business perspective, who actually marketed it with the intention that, it's going to blow up this way? It's like, it kind of happened. And then these guys started getting into the game. It's like, he's absolutely right. When you have a market that it wasn't intentional to go the way it was, it kind of just happened because of the craze. And it was a boom. And that's why there's so many uncertainties, because there was no regulations. There's volatility like crazy. There's shill bidding going on. There's like the bad apples that take advantage of other people. And then there's like the good Samaritans, right? So at the end of the day, like, I listened to all the quotes that he's saying, and I could see the other side saying, oh, this guy's, full of crap. It's typical monopoly. It's not good for the hobby. I'm telling you, you want someone in the leadership role that talks like this, because it makes sense to me, because I'm not looking at it from a hobbyist perspective. I'm seriously looking at it from a marketplace perspective. If I'm in any industry, whether it's real estate, whether it's marketing, digital marketing, any type of industry or marketplaces, this is the way, you know, CEOs talk. They give you solutions to, okay, this is the reality. This is how we're going to change that reality. And it paints a clear picture. There's nothing wrong with what he's saying, in my opinion. And I'm all for it, because he is right. He is not wrong. It was by an accident, whether you say it or not. It's like, trust me, no one could have predicted the way the hobby was going to pan out. No one could have predicted there was going to be absolute boom. And then, you know, people said, oh, junk wax era 2.0, but then you see stability, right? You see guys that have huge support on certain cards and certain prices. You see record-breaking sales, you know. So all these little details that kind of like are sprinkled in. I think it's phenomenal that, you know, we have someone that's willing to kind of take a step forward, because he needs to, for the sake of the hobby, right? So yeah, I might be on the other side, and a lot of people might think I'm, you know, drinking the Kool-Aid, but I think there's a lot of validity in everything that he's saying, 100%.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, he says business had done great by accident. Some people might take that literally and think about the entirety of the business over the course of 60, 70, 80 years. Clearly not. I mean, this business has been running forever, and it's always been a thing. But I think he was clearly talking about the boom that's happened in the last 24 to 36 months. And we mentioned it too. Like, I think everybody who did well, like Topps, Panini, they fell ass backwards into multiplying their company value like 100x. Like, let's be honest. They fell ass backwards into it. You know, all of these influencers fell ass back. All of the three of us talking about all, you know, some of these cards that we sold for a lot of money because we're so smart. No, we like, a big component is we all lucked out because it just happened and it went crazy and we timed it. It was a perfect timing. It wasn't nothing as much to do with our brain and how smart we are about this. It was literally we fell ass backwards into a lot of luck. So I think he's absolutely valid. I think he's correct in that statement. Again, kind of like Hyung, even for me, you can tell me I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I mean, he's right. Like for me, I've always been criticizing the marketing. I feel like there was no marketing, and yet these companies 100x their value. So the way he's going to try to look at it and put some real serious strategy, marketing dollars, money into innovation, all of that stuff. I think that has to be the move to make his business grow from here on in. So,
right.
It's a valid statement.
Yeah, I think the key part of that is the sentence after that where he says, if you plan a business to be lucky, you're dead long term. And I think he's really planning for the long-term future of the industry. And, you know, I guess I could see why people might get offended by his statement of, you know, this business has done great by accident, because, you know, 7-8 decades, the business hasn't collapsed. It survived the junk wax era. But who knows? You know, if the pandemic never happened, would there have been this kind of revival in this industry? You know, or would it just kind of been stagnant? You know, it would always be there, but it would not be the cultural phenomenon sports cards are now. That, right. You know, so many more new collectors are in this space. And I think what he really means by it is that, you know, to grow this industry even further, you need intentionality. You know, you need to really focus and
100%.
market and, you know, just have a vision and a plan for it.
That's what I got out of it, 100%.
Right?
If you want to hate on his statement, just look at what was about to happen, right? Everyone fell ass backwards into it. And you're basically like, what was the strategy? It was print more. What was the strategy? Make more parallels, print more. And we were about to go into junk wax 3.0. Like, that was the strategy / non-strategy, right? So if you're going to hate on his comment here, take a step back and try to think what was actually happening in our industry right now. And the lack of strategy, we're literally about to head into another junk wax era, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. And then we would have, you know, seen people that came in just flock right back out of the, out of the whole industry
exactly
as well, right?
What happened, yeah.
The hobby. Yeah, for sure. Yep. All right. I feel like people who are listening thinks we're sponsored by Fanatics, but I guarantee you we are not. But we would still love to have Michael Rubin come on the show if he ever gets a chance to drop by, and more so for the fact that we're very interested in the hobby, where it goes, and we obviously love the direction it's going now, and we'll even come back with I'm sure there'll be things that we don't like, and we'll talk about those in our podcast too. But generally speaking, this is generally good news for the hobby, and hope more people see it that way. All right, good talk. Let's just move on to our next segment. It's one of our favorites. It's overrated or underrated. And the theme for this particular segment is subsets or insert sets. And I'll give you a list of 3 or 4, and you tell me if you think the subset or the insert set that I'm talking about is overrated or underrated. All right, so the first one is going to be from Topps Baseball. We've been talking about Topps Series 1. The rookie debut cards. You got your regular rookie cards, but the rookie debut with the date of, I guess, their first major league appearance. I guess that's what the date is. Do you like those rookie debut cards of players?
I think for this, the original hobbyist, I guess the true answers would be overrated, but I'm gonna say it's underrated because I think they're great alternative cards, especially in players that. Guys like Shohei Ohtani, for instance, is a perfect example. He actually had a boom on his rookie debut card. Same with Fernando Tatis Jr. because you have your main cards. Yeah, exactly. So with Ohtani specifically, you had his 2 pitching cards and his flagship Topps. Everybody's complaining, well, he doesn't really have a Bowman Chrome. He has a Bowman Chrome auto pitching, and then there's the Bowman Chrome hitting image. There's nothing really in flagship Topps or Topps Chrome. That image where it's the rookie debut where he's hitting ended up getting a lot of love. So obviously that kind of dipped in the phase of the Ohtani kind of like hype, but I think they're great opportunities there because everybody thinks, oh, it's a rookie debut, so nobody really wants it. But then I think it's a great alternative for guys that are priced out of the Juan Sotos and the Shohei Ohtanis, where you can't get a crazy parallel rookie card, like a true rookie card of that player. So I think it's an underrated move where, you know what, that's really, people don't care about it. And on top of that, if you think about it, it's like, that's cool that it has the date. It's like, this is the debut, the image of when he actually, debuted in his major league. So it's like, think of 1952 rookie debut of, Mickey Mantle or whatever it is. And it was that image that he was actually playing. And not saying it was 52 because his rookie was before that, but like that, like stuff like that, where I think it's long term, I think it won't be a bad thing. I think it's a pretty cool card, so I'm gonna say underrated.
Interesting. Okay, what do you think, John?
I am the other way. I think it's overrated. You know what, I kind of agree with Hyung. There's a play aspect to it, and it certainly could be viewed as underrated in terms of value in the hobby space. I just strictly call it overrated because I feel like it's such an excuse for Topps to make like an update product. And, if you wanted to include Juan Soto, like a singular rookie, like you got to have some kind of substance if you're going to release an entire new product. And I feel like the rookie debut is that substance. It's like a excuse to just fill up the box so that people buy it. So from a company strategy point, I think it's such a, it's kind of a pet peeve for me. So, strictly for that reason, I'm going to say overrated because I don't like them.
All right. I'll break the tie. I'm going to side with John. It's overrated. I think it just dilutes the whole product. And the rookie debut, like the design of it's so cheap. Like it just has a printed date. Like maybe make the date embossed, or I don't know, do something different, instead of just making it look like
or have like a nice looking logo or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like for me, it's like, oh, that's ugly. Just kind of putting the date in the corner of the card or at the bottom of the card. So I'm going to say overrated as well for those reasons, not because of the value. Obviously, they're a lot cheaper than the regular rookie cards. Okay, we're gonna go to Topps Chrome Baseball now, and I'm sure we've all gotten this subset, the Future Stars.
I'm gonna say overrated on this one. For me, the Future Stars really it's not something that people look back and say, oh, it's a this is what I'm looking forward to. It's not an option of, oh, this is a insert where it's super desirable or collectible. There's nothing going for it. When I pull a Future Stars card, it's like sometimes I don't even know that they're numbered at some point, right? Because they have like the orange Future Stars, and you're like, it looks like a regular card. But yeah, Future Stars. I mean, yeah, like I can't side with this. Like for me, I'd rather have a rookie debut, of a Ohtani than a Future Stars, right? So, but at the same time, I'm not gonna dog it because they do have their own, niche and collector fan base in it, but it's not for me. Future Stars, I'm out. There's like, what are you saying? It's like, of course they're going to be future superstars because, they're the young prospects. So it's like half of them don't pan out. So like, they're not going to be any value to it anyways, right? So
right,
I'm out.
All right.
Future Stars, is it mostly second year or they're rookies, right? I'm trying to remember back.
They're usually first
rookies?
and second years. I believe there might be, but I think it's mostly kind of like second year or third year players.
Right, or the major stud rookies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm going the other way again. I'm gonna say underrated, and it's I don't say that because I think it's undervalued and you should go out and it's a great no. I'm just saying underrated because I think Future Stars, they've always done a great job of how that set looks. I always thought it looks really, really nice. Every year, I think they do a great job in designing Future Stars subset. It's just a shame because it's a part of an insert set that's considered junk, right? Not really worth anything. No one's really chasing it. So it is junk insert, but I will say just strictly aesthetically, I think it's underrated. It should get a little bit more love because I think it does look, they do a good job in designing it.
All right. I'm going to break the tie. I guess design and the look of the car is very subjective because I think they're ugly. I think they're, the Future Stars, it's like a little gaudy and like, it's funny. The color of the Future Star cards, like it has all of these different colors. So to Hyung's point, I don't even know what color refractor it is. I got, for example, a Drake. I'm just looking at one that I have. A Jake Cronenworth 2022 Topps Chrome Future Stars. And it's like as green, as red in the color. And then I found out that's it's a green refractor number 299. Right? I'm like, oh shoot, this is numbered. I was just gonna toss it in the trash, right? And then, it doesn't matter because it's like worth $2. So like, there's no value in it anyways, even though it's numbered. So highly overrated. And, especially coming from Topps Chrome, you got your Freshman Flash. You got all these kind of like gimmicky subsets, like just packed into Topps Chrome. So I just think it's one of those ones you could do without. Again, dilutes the entire set, in my opinion. All right, we'll go to Panini Prizm for the next two. Let's start with Panini Prizm Football. I don't know if I brought this up in a past episode, but I'm going to bring it up now. Maybe you change your mind. The Manga cards, the one that looks like comic books.
This is tough for me to get behind, guys. First of all, Manga, like I'm not a huge Japanese comic person, so it doesn't excite me whatsoever, but I get it. They're case hits. I'm sure if I pulled a Manga insert, I'd be like, yo, these are the best. But since I haven't, they're not. Not at all. They're overrated. Trevor Lawrence Manga case hit selling for $2,175 raw. I'd rather have a Color Blast. I'd rather have a Downtown than this Manga insert. So I'm going to say overrated.
Okay.
Overrated too. I think when it first came out, we were quasi excited. I think the concept was really good, but I think the way that they eventually deliver the product and the way it looks, very underwhelming to me. I mean, I get it. It's the cartoony part is cool, but majority of the pictures are always non-action, like quasi, maybe kind of on the field, quasi sort of portrait. And you can do so much more with manga. Like they could be flying in the air with all the lines from the wind flying, or like a big explosion in the background, kind of like the Kaboom, where like a lot is kind of happening. And that's a lot of, like in the manga series, even if you go old school like Dragon Ball, there's a lot that you can kind of work with in colors in the background and stuff. So they could have just done so much more with it rather than like a player just standing there smiling and they're just in sort of like a cartoon image. So yeah, very underwhelming in the way they delivered it. So overrated.
Yeah, it's going to be overrated sweep. Like, I'm not an expert on manga art, but it just doesn't look like manga art to me. It just looks like a cheaper version of the Kaboom, like you mentioned, John. Like it
looks like Clark Kim drew it.
You know what? That's 100% correct because I can't draw. So
now we got to watch what we say. No offense to the
actual artist. Yeah, I know.
Well, yeah. So we only speak truth on this podcast. But okay, manga is overrated.
This is where we edit it a bit. Like, go back and edit it.
Yeah.
There's a no edit podcast.
I love it.
But even for the price, like you said, 2K for Trevor Lawrence, that's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Opinion. Yeah.
I'll sell you a drawing for cheaper.
We're going on with this. We're just disparaging this thing.
It's terrible.
Okay, all right. Last one from Panini Prizm Basketball, the fast break insert sets, or the parallels, I guess you could say too. With the bubbles, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna say super underrated in my opinion. So fast break is part of a release too, right? So it's like when you're ripping fast break, it's basically Prizm fast break. So all the cards are like that in terms of your silvers, your hits and stuff like that. The parallels, it's a totally different, but it's kind of like the shimmers, I guess, in baseball, where people are like, oh, but it's fast break. Oh, it's a Luka pink out of 50. Oh, but it's a fast break. It's like, what do you mean? It's like it's a Luka like colored parallel, right? So it's like, I don't think it should demand lesser value on certain cards. Yeah, like they're not true OG refractors, and I think that's part of the hobby logic we always talk about. We're still stuck in that a new person comes in and says, you know what, this out of 50 is half the price of a regular out of 50. It's like something's not right here in terms of supply and demand, I guess, because there's a lot of hobbyists that view it. But as more people come into that hobby, they don't see it the same way. They're saying the same thing. In baseball, if it's an orange refractor or an orange shimmer, they're looking at it as it's a 25. So eventually, I think that will correct itself. I think there's a lot of current things that draw current biases, I'd say, and fast break being one of them, saying that it's not original Prizm. I'm like, when you were at the peak ripping Prizm, or at least I was ripping Prizm Basketball, I ripped Prizm fast break. There's still like huge cards, like they're big time, the boxes aren't cheap. It's still the same format. There's autos to be pulled. There's, numbered cards that, sell well in the past. Like if you look at Luka's fast break, they're not cheap. They have some potential. So I think it's super underrated, with all that said. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, this is another tough one because I think I've always sided with Hyung, and truthfully, I probably believe that it is underrated because it is numbered and it receives a lot of hate. But you know what? I'm gonna pile onto that hate because I don't like it. I mean, the look is all right. Why do you call it fast break? Like, why don't you call it donut circles or dot prism? Or if it comes out of Walmart packages, like just call it Walmart Prism. Like, why? What does fast break mean? Like, what if you said, okay, there's fast break Prism, and then there's shooters Prism, and then there's full court Prism. Like, the naming convention I thought is dumb. Right. And then the actual Prism itself, like the design, is a little bit underwhelming. So I think from a collection purely aesthetic point of view, I think it's and the naming of it, I think it's overrated. But value wise, if we want to get into specifics of investment, I do agree with him. But yeah, overrated.
Okay. You know what? I get the hobby logic argument that Hyung was mentioning, like a numbered 50 to 50, there shouldn't be such a huge differential to another card that's numbered to 50 because the rarity is the same. The only thing I will say about it is that, especially with Panini Prizm Basketball these days, especially with the modern sets, like there's so many parallels. So I feel having a fast break parallel is this too much? So I'm saying overrated because of that reason. Like, do we need another parallel that, and I agree with you. I have no idea why that card is called fast break. It's like someone said, like, what should we call this bubble parallel card? Fast break kind of sounds cool. All right, let's say it's a fast break prism. So a parallel. So yeah, I guess I could totally be wrong that in 5-10 years people are going to realize the value of fast break prism shouldn't be so cheap compared to the regular true color or all those other more popular parallels. But there's a part of me that it might go the other way. Like people are going to realize there's just too many parallels there, and this one doesn't look that great in my opinion. So I'm going to say it's overrated for that reason.
I believe fast break was introduced in 2017.
It's probably one of the older non-OG prisms.
I'm just looking at blowout forums and like trying to find the definition of fast break, and there's the comments are pretty funny. This was a thread back in 2017. That's why I love blowout forums. Shout out to blowout forums again. You just get so much information from true hobbyists. So there's one that he says, just rebranded for hit chasers and group breaks. It's a fast break, quote unquote, because you could skip a lot of these base cards and seek out the pack box hits. I'm all for that.
Okay, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Okay.
Okay, so I take back the fact
some wordplay in basketball and actual in the hobby.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
All right, so if it's one of the older parallels, fine, I take back my argument, but I still think that what that you read from the blowout forums, that's correct. So it's overrated. People just want to.
If you look at the comments, everybody's like, "What is this garbage?" True hobbyist at his finest. I love it. Yeah. See, that's why I'm not. I love cards. I don't discriminate on cards. Like I think a card is beautiful. I will love it because it's such a beautiful card, and especially with those like Luka prisms, and it's just so rare to see the parallels of Luka. So it's just like I'm not going to discriminate on any type of parallel, except for kind of like the tops. They start getting the green bubbles and all that stuff. That's what I don't like.
It's just a naming convention that bothers me. Like, at least in tops, you got shimmer, and the actual design kind of looks like shimmer. You create elephant prism, you call it elephant. You create dragon scale, you call it dragon scale, right? Like, what if they made dragon scale and they call it full court prism? Like, I was like, what? What is it? What does that mean? So there's just the naming is just so silly. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, Hyung doesn't discriminate, but I guess that makes me a sports card bigot because just get rid of those fast break. Just get rid of them. We don't need them. Okay. I just realized that I said overrated on all four of those, so maybe there's an internal bias that I chose these four. But it's a good segment because we didn't all agree on this one. Okay. Let's close the show with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And this segment, if you're new to our podcast, is when each of us chooses two cards or two sets, and we debate which one we would rather invest in. And we usually throw it to Hyung to start off, but I'll start this one off because I'm going to use one of our listener submissions. His name's Ed Reddington, and he submitted this pick one for us that we'll debate right now. On one side, we have Corbin Carroll's Bowman Chrome Rookie Auto, PSA 10, his first Bowman Chrome. And I believe last time I checked, it was going for about $450, $500 versus another prospect, Kyle Manzardo, Bowman Chrome autograph PSA 10, which is going for $200, $250, plus a Wander Franco logo fractor rookie card, which is going for another $200. So kind of even around $450, $500 value on each side, but you get the two cards on one side, the Kyle Manzardo Bowman Chrome first auto and the Wander Franco logo fractor. And then on the other side, you just have your who some people consider the number one prospect going into this year, Corbin Carroll, his first Bowman Chrome rookie card, auto, PSA 10. Which side are you taking?
This is an interesting one. Good old Ed, throwing us a curveball here because I think for me, when I originally seen this, it was, Corbin Carroll. I'm a Corbin Carroll fan, but I'm not a base auto fan at the same time. So it is a base auto. I think it's a little overpriced with the hype with Corbin Carroll. So you are losing value there 100%. The problem I have with Kyle Manzardo is like very under the radar guy. Sneaky good, like he can swing it. He's a career minor league average, I think over 300. Can hit, he plays for Tampa, so there's a good, future team and future value of Manzardo, but like he falls into kind of like getting lost into the shuffle. He has to always constantly overproduce because he doesn't have that initial hype, right? It's kind of like you look at guys like Oscar Gonzalez, for instance, and not saying they're similar players. I use Oscar Gonzalez because he was a nobody in 2020. He basically was one of the guys that kind of flew under the radar, but had solid seasons, made it up to the big leagues last year, had put up great numbers, and still no love, right? So I feel like Kyle Manzardo is going to get kind of like that same treatment. He's not your Wander Franco. He's not your Corbin Carroll. He's not your hyped prospect. And part of like card collecting, it's the hobby logic thing. We've always, at least for me, I've always set a rule as, if I'm in this game and I'm investing from an investment standpoint, I'm going to go with the big names. Like in terms of the volatility, it's like, yes, there's people that fly under the radar. That's not my game personally. And I think Wander Franco has to do a lot for that logo fractor to really, really jump out. And that logo fractor is very different than, let's just say, Julio Rodriguez's logo fractor, which is a SP, and I would even go as far as it's an SSP. The population on that Wander Franco is like 300 right now, so it's a good card, like a low pop, but like we're talking the same as a Topps Gold Wander Franco in paper. That's the type of same pop count you're getting with that logo fractor. So I think it's an overvalued Corbin Carroll right now, but at the same time, I like Corbin Carroll move better just because I think there's a chance where Corbin Carroll goes off, right? Because he is one of the top prospects coming up, and you could create that quick flip. Whereas the Manzardo, even the Bowman Chrome, it's not cheap. I don't think his stuff isn't cheap, but he is flying under the radar, and there's a lot that he has to do in order for that price to have some serious price action. And same with Wander Franco. So I'm going to go with Corbin Carroll.
Okay. Makes sense.
Wait, so the Wander Franco logo fractor is printed more than the Julio Rodriguez?
For sure, 100%. Yeah,
No
the
way.
Julio Rodriguez
Did not
is
know
an
that.
SP, and then the Wander Franco also has color parallels, which the logo fractor of Julio doesn't. I believe they only might have a single color or just the super fractor. Yeah,
Interesting.
and the logo
Did not
fractor.
know
And
that.
then the other ones have green. The Wander has a green, has other colors as well.
No wonder the Wander is so cheap.
No wonder
No,
the Wander is cheap.
Ba-dum-bum.
Good one.
Okay. You know what? I suspect he might be asking this because maybe this is a live trade for him, possibly. I would only the Manzardo. I don't know anything about Manzardo, but it's sounding like it's a dark horse style of pick, as Hyung pointed out. So for me, I would only go you're really leaning on Wander, and you're really leaning on that logo fractor, really killing it. Because the Manzardo, unless he's a Manzardo fan, like he PCs, then this might be a very easy pick for him. But I'm with Hyung. I'm on the other side. Corbin Carroll. There's hype behind him. It is a big card. I'm not big into the base auto either, but it's a PSA 10, fairly liquid. Perhaps his like best autograph card. So if he does blow up, you could probably sell it for a good amount, and you could probably sell it pretty easily versus the other side. So it's a pretty easy one. It's Corbin Carroll.
Yeah, and for me, it's Corbin Carroll quite easily. In the trade, usually when it's like not a non-even card trade, so 2 for 1, I always want the best player in the trade. So that's the general rule I go by. Out of the 3, obviously, right now, Corbin Carroll is the best player. Wander Franco would be, but in terms of the card value, like it's a Bowman Chrome, all those things considered, low refractor is, if obviously if it's Wander Franco, Bowman Chrome, that would be different. But with the low refractor rookie card and just hearing that it's not as SP as I thought it was, the value of the card itself with the player, Corbin Carroll is probably the number one guy to get in terms of value. So I'm going to go with Corbin Carroll. And, I'm not obviously deep into prospecting as Hyung is, but I know like the top 50 guys, I've heard of them. And I was just going over the MLB prospect list, and Kyle Manzardo is 73, the third top first baseman prospect behind Soderstrom.
And Tyler Soderstrom. He's going to be good. He's a guy I could back, and he's more of a catcher in my opinion, but like first base catcher.
Okay. Yeah. Tyler Soderstrom is 39. And then of course, Tristan Casas from the Red Sox.
I like him too.
And I really like Tristan because, he plays for the Red Sox and he's got power potential. And I was looking at his cards the other day. It's like $260. So I'd rather pay $60 more to get a base Bowman Chrome of Tristan Casas than Kyle Manzardo, right? So that's why I would just might as well stick with Corbin Carroll in this 1v1. All right, hope that helps, Ed. It's a Corbin Carroll sweep, and thanks for submitting that to us. We appreciate anyone that likes to submit their 1v1. We'll gladly try to incorporate it into the show. All right, Hyung, do you want to go with yours?
Sure. I'm gonna do a little different this week. I'm gonna stick with raw and stick with on a budget. And we're gonna go $200 or less. If I'm picking a Julio Rodriguez, because I don't want graded, I wanna seek after potential kind of like long-term play. I have a raw card I don't mind holding, and maybe I grade it later, or maybe it doesn't grade well, and I'm okay with having this as a PC card because maybe it's gonna be worth $500 or $600 one day, right? So there's plays in every single level. It doesn't have to be graded. So I'm gonna stick with $200 or less. If you basically had a pick on either side, would you go a 2022 Topps Heritage Refractor? Okay, so Heritage Chrome Refractor, Julio Rodriguez. So number to 673 raw, last sold for $170. Okay, or would you go with the 2022 Topps Chrome Update Sapphire Julio Rodriguez, which last sold for $160 raw? And they both looked kind of like off-centered a bit. And I wouldn't say off-centered, probably not going to gem. So realistically, it might fall under the PSA 9 to maybe a BGS 9.5. These are two of my like favorite, or I would say Topps Heritage Chrome hits home for me. I'm biased towards that. But, the Sapphire is also that Julio image, which is his flagship image, right? So it's not the regular Topps Chrome. There's a Topps Chrome Update. So there is a Topps Chrome Sapphire, just to throw it out there. That's more expensive than the Update Sapphire.
Easy one for me. Right when Hyung mentioned, if I'm looking at this long-term raw purchase, it's got to be the Heritage, numbered out at 673. Ooh. I think it's an easy one for me. The Sapphire is cool, but there's just so much Topps Chrome coming out. Topps Chrome and, Topps Chrome Update and Topps Chrome Sapphire and Topps Chrome Update Sapphire and Gildan or whatever it was called, and, Cosmic, and I don't know what else is going to come out, but there's just so much. There's a gluttony. And if there's going to be this much J-Rod and you're looking to go long-term on a raw card that is not going to get a gem, you might as well, for the same money, go for the numbered. And it's not like Heritage is a crap product. Topps Chrome Heritage is a crap product. So, I think it's an easy one for me. You go for the numbered at this point.
Mm-hmm. For me, my first choice, like just looking at the card, like I like the color match of the Sapphire. I like the image on the Sapphire. It looks pretty cool. But then I didn't know there was like a Topps Chrome Sapphire to it, and then everything John mentioned I agree with in terms of like and we talked about this in a recent podcast where there's so many Julio Rodriguez rookie cards out there, just different variations of. And for me in general, like with the market the way it is, like what I'm trying to buy now is anything that's either autographed or numbered, because I want that built-in scarcity to it. Because otherwise, with the non-numbered stuff, like even silver prisms, we thought like silver prisms are going to be very popular all the time until the market goes down. You're like, okay, some of them aren't holding its value, and it's really at the whim of the market, like the people that want to or like the non-numbered cards for whatever reason. And I think Sapphire kind of falls into that category. Whereas, numbered, like people are like, oh, this is, even for a casual collector, they know this is numbered, so there's a scarcity to it. And I think there's a built-in value. And I like the look of the Heritage. I wish it was color match, like the Sapphire, but it looks pretty cool. And because it's numbered, I'm going the same way as John. I'm choosing Heritage.
Awesome. And that's why I noted that it was the Top Chrome Update Sapphire. This is the second Sapphire Julio product, right? That the original Sapphire is Topps Chrome, not Update. So it becomes a pretty lower print run, I'd say. And the price will dictate that as well. So It's like having that secondary set. I used it on purpose because it is kind of like that flagship update image, and that's where all the color parallels are. So this becomes another color parallel. But I'm an old school guy that loves, chrome refractors, whether they're black refractors. Like I think black refractors are super underrated too. Like I think in person, the chrome refractors are different. They remind me of that old school. I was taking a picture of the Manny Machado.
White refractors too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the white all the refractors are great. And I was taking a picture of kind of like the Machado refractor, the Bowman Chrome I had, and the older refractors just hit different. And I feel like the Heritage kind of falls into kind of like that. I don't know what finish they use, but the refractors and Heritage are very, very shiny. And
looks nice.
I think, I think it's a great long-term card. If you look at previous guys like your Juan Soto's refractors, your PSA 10s, you look at Otani's refractor PSA 10, and they would go as high as, I could be making this up, but between 2,000 and 3,000 at peak, right, for a PSA 10.
Yeah.
So I think it has huge potential, the card itself, just because it is numbered. It is a Topps Heritage. By the way, Topps Heritage probably one of the worst boring rips on the irony side of things, right? So it's like hitting something like this is like 1 in a million in Heritage. So I'm going to stick with Julio Rodriguez refractor in the Heritage side as well. But I said this to make a point. It's like, don't maybe fall into the price that, this is a great deal for Update Sapphire. I don't know if that's going to be necessarily kind of like the go-to. So I'm going to go refractor of Heritage.
Cool. Sweet. That was a good one.
Yeah.
All right, John.
All right, fellas. We're going to go 2012 Prizm Hobby Box at $5,500 versus 2018 Luka Year Prizm Hobby Box at $35. So the all iconic first Prizm at 2012 $5,500 versus the Luka Year Prizm Hobby at $3,500.
Man. Woohoo. Go ahead, Clark. You could tackle this one.
Oh man, I think it's somewhat easy for me. Like 2018, the only reason why I choose 2018 is I'm all in on Luka, right? Like it's Luka or bust for me with the 2018, and with 2012, you got a few stars. Who's in it? Kyrie's in 2012. Is Kawhi?
Kawhi's in it. Yeah.
It's everybody's first year Prizm.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. Right. Exactly. So it's the original. It's original 2012 Prizm is the original Prizm basketball.
The double
set,
cohort style.
Yeah.
2 years in one.
So I mean, like more chances for hits for one, and it's I love the fact that it's the original. Like it's the first year of something is always worth of some value. Obviously, it's reflected in the price, but I almost would have thought it would be more, or at least the 2018 Prizm wouldn't be as high as it was. Really, it's really inflated because of I would imagine because Luka's in it, right? If he wasn't, I'm sure it'd be a lot cheaper. So for that reason, I'm going for the 2012. But that's a I guess that's not so easy decision for me. But yeah, I still go for 2012.
Oh, you're going for the 2012, eh?
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna be like on the 2018 because I'm like thinking, man, that Luka chase would be awesome. Like, just
and I
mean,
think
you got
the
Trey,
black is still available. The 1 of 1,
right? The 1 of 1
think
true
anyone
black
pulled it.
is available. And you got Marvin Bagley in that set too, guys, and DeAndre Ayton.
An excellent consolation.
Oh man, this is
Trey.
tough. I think
you got Trey.
yeah,
SGA, man.
Oh yeah, SGA.
Yeah,
There you go.
it's a good class. You got Trey, SGA. You got some
Ayton.
decent names in DeAndre Ayton. I think it would be a fun rip. But I think, 2012. I think that's the way to go, to be honest. And it would I wouldn't even think it's a rip. It's just like hold, because I think there's so much to that set in the history, and there's not going to be too many boxes lying around. Thus, the price of $5,500 a hobby box, right? Yeah. So I'm going to go 2012, even though I would have loved to just rip a box 2018. I think that would be pretty fun to go Luka chasing it. Absolutely. So yeah, 2012 for me, just because it's such a big set.
Yeah, but who are we kidding? Hyung's ripping up the 20. He's ripping 2012.
Yeah, you know what? I might just. This one I might not.
Okay.
Rip. Yeah, because you could come out striking out pretty bad on these.
Right. True.
Right. It took me a while to think about this, but it became fairly easy. And I'm going to make a point about it, but I'm picking 2018 Prizm. And number one, Luka is a big component of that. The 1 in a million black Prizm is what they say is still out there. I love SGA. So from a PC perspective, is two big time players that I like. So it'd be a fun rip. The real point I want to make is I think 2012 has some big time price correction to come down. So whether you're going to rip this or you're going to keep it as an investment, 2012 was quote unquote iconic because the hobby just called it iconic. Well, it's the first Prizm because we all seemingly really care about Prizm, the brand. No, not really. I think it was iconic because it was the double court year. And if you're going back a couple of years, like 2018, 2019, like all of the top 10 players in the NBA their rookies were from 2012. Like Kyrie's in there and 80's in there. Kawhi when he was on the Raptors, like all the big Klay Thompson, what's his face in Portland? Oh my gosh, why is his name not coming up?
Damian
Lillard, like all the big boys, the big studs, top 10s are all in there. So not only was it quote unquote first Prizm, the big boys are in there. So like I think people just assume this is going to become an all-time iconic set. But as we're going forward, these guys are falling off, man. They're not turning into Michael Jordan. They're not turning 1996 Topps Chrome is all-time iconic because it's Kobe Bryant. 86 Fleer is all-time iconic because it's Michael Jordan. 2018 could become all-time iconic if Luka joins sort of like that upper echelon class, right? And 2012 is, I don't know, what is it going to be? Is it still going to be all-time iconic if we're talking about a whole bunch of players that are top 200 NBA? We're not talking Kevin Durant. We're not talking Steph Curry. So there's a part of me as we continue going into the future that maybe a lot of people might not call this all-time iconic anymore. So for me, for that reason, it's an easy one at 2018 Prizm at Luka. And, I thought of this question, so I got to digest it a lot more than you guys. But just a point I wanted to make. I saw a part of me starting to get a little bit nervous about 2012 Prizm.
It's a good point. No, that's a really good point.
And the crazy thing, I just went through the checklist of 2012. The crazy thing too about that is there was silver parallels, and then your gold out of 10, and that's it. And
I think it was green. Like that's it.
And the green, there was a green. Yeah, silver, green, and your gold out of 10. That's it, right? So that's the crazy part. There also is a Prizm Kobe auto too in that set. which is a huge chase. Just Kobe in general, his first Prizm card. I think it has a history of pretty healthy sales. So there is that as a chase compared to just the rookies that are being chased in that set.
True, because I think the gold chase is monstrous in that.
It's massive, yeah.
Right.
Everybody wants the gold, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah, good one. I thought it was more straightforward than that, but now, like John normally does, I always go back to the fence a little bit. So if you ask me again tomorrow, I might change my answer. All right, but like always, it depends on if we actually did it and what you pull will determine whether you made the whether you feel the same way. Imagine you get Wendell Carter Jr. out of that 2018 set. You're like, oh shoot, the 2012 is better. All right, thanks again to all our listeners for tuning in to another episode of Cards to the Moon. If you haven't given us 5 stars and you liked this episode, we really appreciate that. And you could find us anywhere where you listen to our podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Cards to the Moon as well, where we try to post daily just to keep you guys updated on what we're doing at the show. All right, with that, we'll see you again next week for a brand new show. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.